Alright, so check this out. This is the ranking when it comes to the best Pokemon being allowed to be used. The legendary Pokemon, the things you get at the end of the game, they're the best. They're on the cover of your game. You love them, you know them. Now, as you can see here, despite being a Pokemon that is all the way back, first revealed in like 1998, very old Pokemon, has existed for basically the entire franchise, my goat Ho-Oh is getting a big W, as it is still, to this day, even with all the new powerful Pokemon that have come out, it is ranked as like the 4th best Pokemon right now. That's fantastic. That's amazing. But the other two legendaries that have existed for around the same amount of time as it, even the GOAT back in the day, for many generations, Mewtwo, he's all the way in C tier with a bunch of normal Pokemon like Blissey and a Lola Malola. Mewtwo is with a fish, is in company with a little pink sunfish. And Lugia is in the tier where they say they don't even have a niche. Awful D tier. And by the way, the D tier is massive, because they're the most recent legendaries are so powerful, they're absolutely changing the game for everybody. And Ho-Oh is still amazing. Now you may say, well, they did something for this. They made UU Ubers, which is basically just a tier where the less powerful legendaries, they get their time to shine, because you're not allowed to use the most used legendaries. So it's trying to make some of those other ones shine. It makes Magearna shine, and now finally our old favorite Mewtwo, he's back. He lifts. He's still good. He just needs a whole nother format for it. Good job, Mewtwo. You've still got pretty good stats. Alright, and then, but even in this tier, what's Lugia doing? Still with normal Pokemon, C tier. Oh man, Lugia, come on, you're so cool. I like you so much. What are you doing here with Skarmory? There's also, the only other legendary in this is Reshiram. Yeah, and Reshiram really does have it rough too. I quite like Reshiram as well. Sad to see it. So why is Lugia bad? Let's discuss it. The first thing that you gotta check when checking a legendary is, let's look at its stats. And you may notice, Lugia is extremely odd. It's very, very tanky, some of the best tankiness of any Pokemon, and actually surprisingly fast. And it's like, does a speedy tank work? We haven't seen many of them in Pokemon. And they kind of can. Lugia in previous generations was pretty good. And even Superior has a kind of similar stat spread, and it's pretty good as well. But what does speed with no offenses and tankiness do if you have nothing to do with it? What does Lugia accomplish in a match? When you have 90 attack and 90 special attack, what do? Well, they gave it a moveset that consists of attacks. So let's look at its main move, Aeroblast. It has a 100 power, 95 accuracy, and an increased crit chance. Yeah, off of 90 special attack, who cares? I'll be using my Zapdos with Hurricane and be hitting so much harder, even though its accuracy is booty cheeks. But it's just not worth it. You're not even killing anything. Lugia doesn't take down things, and it even lost Toxic this generation. It can't even learn Toxic anymore. It can't force the Pokemon to get whittled down. All Lugia really ever tries to do in this generation is set up Calm Minds, and it's pretty rough. And it's got this amazing signature ability that only it and Dragonite have, Multi-Scale. Oh, it's cool. If this Pokemon's at full HP, damage from attacks is halved. So it's even tankier on the first turn. A full health Lugia is like almost impossible to one-shot. Think about these defenses but doubled. Yeah, that's crazy. But yet again, it's actually a lot better on Dragonite than it is on Lugia, because Dragonite uses it to set up a sweep. What does Lugia do with it? Nothing. It hits you with a really weak move, or it tries to set up a sweep it won't accomplish. There's just too many other Pokemon that can do something about it. And not to say, its typing is also pretty awful. So the Psychic type has fallen off hard ever since Gen 2, because they nerfed it a little too hard by introducing Dark and Steel, which are both amazing types, still very relevant. Yeah, Psychic just doesn't, like, accomplish enough. And Flying's only good when comboed with other good types. Unless you're Tornadus. He's good at being a pure Flying type. Anyways, now, let's discuss why Ho-Oh is still keeping up. Why Ho-Oh is so good. Now let's look at Ho-Oh's stats. Now, Ho-Oh decided to do something a lot smarter, where it's still really tanky in its special defense, and its HP is solid too, but it actually hits you. 130 attack? That's pretty solid. That's the same amount as, like, Rhydon and, like, Urshifu and a bunch of other Pokemon. Still keeps up with things like Great Tusk and a bunch of Pokemon. 130 attack, that's very solid. Now, I will say, like Lugia, both of them have the problem of having their attack and special attack both comparable, and they both would be so much better if you just you don't want to be a mixed attacker. You take some of the attack out, give it to the special attack in Lugia's case, and then for Ho-Oh, you'd want to take some of that special attack and put it into the attack. Ho-Oh would be hitting like a monster, because 130 is already good, and it never uses that 110 special attack. Oh my gosh, Ho-Oh could be an absolute monster. Now, this is still a much better stat spread than Lugia, because it has something to hit you with. 130 attack, yeah, that's great. And not only that, its move pool and typing are so much better. Fire Flying, it has its issues. The Stealth Rock weakness is insane. But Heavy Duty Boots got introduced in Generation 8, making Ho-Oh even better than ever, because it can just ignore the Stealth Rock. And then Fire Flying actually becomes a pretty good type. Fire, you may not know this, has the second most amount of resistances, only to Steel. It has 6 resistances. That's really good. And Flying has its own very good defensive qualities, like the resistance to fighting and the immunity to ground. And now, one of the things that makes Ho-Oh unbelievably amazing, really pushes it, is not only does it have this great stat spread, solid typing, but its signature move is ridiculous. It's 100 power, 95 accuracy, physical fire move, very good. It's cool that we actually get a reliable, no drawback really, physical fire move. And yeah, it has a 50% chance to burn. People complain about the move Scald, which has a 30% chance to burn, and people said that was too broken. Yeah, Sacred Fire has a whole ass 50% chance. You can just really send these flying, and you're gonna burn like 2 or 3 Pokemon from the enemy team so often, especially because Ho-Oh is tanky as we see, and it's got great longevity because it's also broken ability Regenerator. This ability was introduced in Gen 5, and it is crazy. Every time Ho-Oh switches out, it gains back 1/3 of its health. For a tanky Pokemon, that is so amazing. And it's kept with such a great move pool. Some Pokemon have much worse move pools than they used to, because Gen 9 cut some moves, added some new moves for other Pokemon. For Ho-Oh, it has everything it needs. It still has Recover. Some Pokemon can't even heal anymore from the moveset nerfs, like Mew, but Ho-Oh's still good. It's got a signature move, Sacred Fire, which is so broken, and it's got great coverage in Brave Bird and Earthquake. Yeah, Ho-Oh is hitting much harder with its flying type than Lugia is, and Lugia is the one that got a signature flying type move. It's pathetic, really. Ho-Oh is just... Oh, Ho-Oh has just been kept up and is so amazing to this day. And yeah, he's great. And the new mechanic of terastallizing has actually helped him quite a bit, because one of Ho-Oh's only problems is that while its typing is good, two of the most meta-relevant threats, Kyogre and Miraidon, will go right through that high special defense because they're insanely powerful and hit Ho-Oh super effectively. Now, Ho-Oh does often use, as you can see here, Ground, Grass, Fairy to kind of keep up with this. For instance, Ground will make it immune to the electric from Miraidon. Grass kind of helps it mediate both Kyogre and Miraidon at the same time. And Fairy is just an overall really good type that matches up with it quite well. Now, I did just cover Ho-Oh, so why'd I cover the goat first? I mean, the goat second instead of last. Why did I even mention Mewtwo in the first place? Well, let's talk about Mewtwo. Now, I'm not even going to say a ton with Mewtwo like I did with the other two, because, I mean, Mewtwo's not another Gen 2 legendary. I'm not comparing Mewtwo as much, because Ho-Oh and Lugia are the ones that are counterparts after all. But Mewtwo, still really good special attack and speed. As we can see here, they did the same thing where Mewtwo could be a lot better if you took that attack stat, and put it into other stuff. Literally anything else, it would be better. That's just classic Gen 1 and 2 stat distributions, though. It just kind of happens. But the reason Mewtwo has kind of fallen off is actually pretty simple. First of all, his psychic typing. Offensively, you usually want to have two typings to have a same type attack bonus with. Mewtwo just has psychic, and psychic's a pretty bad offensive type. You get resisted by the most popular type in Steel. You're weak to Ghost. Dark's immune to you. You can't even hit your own type neutrally. And defensive psychic is sometimes used more often than offensive psychic. Look at Slowking. But what really does it, what really dug Mewtwo's grave, is that there's been so much power creep specifically with the speed stat. Look, these are 5 new Pokemon they introduced this generation that both have better offensive dual types than Mewtwo, and they all were given speeds of 135, and also all of them hit very hard. 3 of them hit harder than Mewtwo, always. And they're just way faster. And then there's Pokemon that are even faster than this 135 plus yield that I have here, because Iron Bundle here actually has 136 speed, but I put 135 because it's just 135 and 135 adjacent. But there's even faster ones like Zacian and Calyrex Shadow nearing the 150 speed area. It just makes it tough for Mewtwo, because there's now just a lot of very strong threats that can accomplish a lot more than him and are faster than him. The only thing that's really kept Mewtwo from being too awful is that actually Mewtwo has a really good move pool. But that ain't enough when you're just getting outpaced everywhere when you're supposed to be fast. But yeah, that was just a quick little rant. Ho-Oh is still my GOAT. Ho-Oh is... It's great that Ho-Oh has kept up for so many generations. He really is pretty cool. I've always liked Ho-Oh. I actually like both Ho-Oh and Lugia quite a bit. Pretty good legendaries. And Ho-Oh needs to carry Gen 2 on his back, because a lot of Gen 2 Pokemon are not doing all too well right now. So I'm glad Ho-Oh really representing Gold and Silver. Anyways, goodbye.